Everyone is talking about AI, but most likely they have no idea what they're talking about or have vague idea about what it is. So we're going to fix that together today. We're going to look into 3 different must-know terminologies everyone should know. If you're from business background, marketing design, I'll explain about what it is, but also explain about why we need to know this. You don't need the technical knowledge to understand this video, so just stay tuned and follow me. So the first word is artificial intelligence. Artificial and intelligence. Let's think about artificial. What is artificial? It means it is artificially human-made. And intelligence. Intelligence is the ability to learn, understand, and reason, solve the problem. Let's think about it. Artificial intelligence is a human-made intelligence that mimics things only human intelligence can do or used to do. The Professor John McCarthy, the person who actually coined the terminology artificial intelligence back in 1956, defined AI as the science and engineering of making intelligent machines, especially intelligent computer programs. I personally prefer the definition by the US National AI Act announced in 2020. It says, AI is a machine-based system that can, for a given set of human-defined objectives, make predictions, recommendations, or decisions. So simply speaking, AI is a sophisticated computer system designed to do things that people used to do, like recognizing faces, understanding speech, making decisions, or even creating art. So we understand AI now as a branch of computer science that perform tasks like humans. But this leads to the important question. You should have a question about then how does AI actually learn to mimic the human intelligence? Focus on this word learn. This brings us to 2 famous terminologies that you have probably heard before. It's machine learning and deep learning. Notice that both have the learning in them. So that's our first clue. The term machine learning defined in the 1950s by pioneer the Arthur Samuel as the field of study that gives computer the ability to learn without explicitly being programmed. So what it means if you learn the basic programming, what we're doing is making into a computer language to follow the certain rules. Let's say 1 plus 2 is 3, those things like that. But instead of programming every single line of what to do in this certain scenario, instead teach computer by giving lots of information, data, and make them understand and make a decision by learning the pattern by itself. The keyword here is pattern. Imagine teaching a child what dog is. When we explain to a child about a dog, we don't say animal with the 4 legs, fur, and a tail, cute face, that's the dog. Instead, what we do is we point at the dog and say, that's a dog. And when this process repeat and repeat, eventually the child will be able to recognize that dogs are the dogs. That's exactly how the machine learning works. By giving a repetitive and a large, enormous amount of data and making them learn the patterns inside it. So now let's move on to another important terminology, deep learning. It is also learning, but it is deep. Deep learning is a special type of machine learning inspired by how our brain works. Our brain has neurons connected in different layers, and deep learning uses artificial neural networks with many different layers. That's why we call it as deep. I know layer can be a bit confusing, but let's imagine when you see a friend for the first time, what do you recognize? Your brain processes it in a different stages. First, you'll notice things like, oh, she is tall or she is short, and the color of her hair or big superficial things that you can recognize from a distance. And the second thing that you'll recognize is the details like the eyes, the nose, the face, their speaking habit, things like that. You may not notice, but inside your brain, you'll go through a different layer and combine all the facts and say, oh, that's Sarah. So deep learning works in the same way. You process information in a different layer, add some randomization by putting a little tweak. Another important word that we should know when we learn about the deep learning is a neural networks. So these are the layers that I've told you before. These are building blocks of the deep learning. Information flows through the web and each point adjusts how it processes the information different based on what it learned. Just like the brain has billions of neurons working together, artificial neural networks have interconnected nodes working together to solve the problems. So let's just wrap up what we have learned. So if someone says machine learning, deep learning, neural network, they're all talking about AI. It is often used interchangeably, so we have to stop here and think about why can't we just call everything AI? Why do we differentiate these categories? Because machine learning, deep learning, it requires a different resources, deliver different results, and cost in a different amount. Because machine learning is excellent for structured business problems like the Excel spreadsheet data or database data. You need a moderate computing power. Sometimes you don't really need a GPU. Maybe just a good laptop or like basic cloud service would be enough. In terms of the data size, if you're using a traditional machine learning, you don't need like millions of data set. About hundreds, thousands of the different data points would be enough. It is cost effective and can be deployed in weeks or months. Machine learning has its own caveat. It has difficulty understanding the unstructured data like image and language. Deep learning, on the other hand, it is more complicated. So we learned about neural network, right? So having different kinds of neurons and different layers, it means that a deep learning excels in complex unstructured data sets such as image, speech, text, video. If you want to run or train deep learning model, you need GPU most likely. If you run the model, you'll be able to feel the difference. For example, in machine learning, it can sometimes take, let's say, about 10 minutes of training hours depending on the data size. But deep learning, it sometimes takes like 7 hours or even like 3 days, 5 days. So through deep learning, you can do advanced things such as facial recognition, ChatGPT, medical image diagnosis, and self-driving car. But because deep learning requires the millions of data points and expensive GPU, which means that it's expensive, it demands a specialized expertise. Programming library that you'll be using will be different. There are libraries such as PyTorch, JAX, a lot more complicated than machine learning libraries like scikit-learn or like GBM, different things. If you have any questions, please leave comments and ask me questions. I'll try to answer as much as possible. And if this video was helpful, press likes and subscribe.